All right, let's take a quick spin around some of the other names. Who knew that Jaden Rashada? Who would like to see a Jaden Rashada, Nika Iamalieva quarterback battle? What school is brave enough to welcome in both Nico and Jaden Rashada? Jaden Rashada, still in there. Joe Cotton is a name that I've had to get familiar with over the course of the last couple of weeks. He's from South Dakota, an offensive tackle. Right now it's Cincinnati, Wisconsin, but the overall interest is very, very prevalent. Jonte Cook, very talented, but have yet to see him all put it together. He has left Washington. Julian Neal from Stanford as well. Any other players? We mentioned Trevor Pena earlier. There's just a huge just sort of list of contributors, even from power conference players. Any other names stick out to y'all that have gotten your attention?
I think one for name recognition is Kennedy Erlocker going into the portal.
That's right.
If you can't figure out who his father was, it was Jim Erlocker, an accountant in Maine. No, yes, Brian Erlocker's son. He's in the portal. He was leaving Notre Dame. I don't know where he's going, but I just think as far as name value, that's got some.
Yep.
Did we didn't hit on the move at Ole Miss, did we, with who they actually signed? Because I thought that was interesting that Ole Miss is bringing in Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback who won a national title in D2. I think that happened in the last 24, 48 hours. And what does it say about Ole Miss's quarterback room now trying to replace Jackson Dart, right? I mean, I think typically, now this might be availability, it might be something else, but I had seen that Ole Miss was when I first saw Ole Miss was in the market for a transfer quarterback, I was like, that means the spring didn't go great. That's always my first inclination. Otherwise, why would you go get somebody? So that was kind of my hunch. And then to see somebody brought up from this level that, could provide a sprinkle in there, I thought it was an interesting move for a number of reasons. Primarily, what does it mean for Ole Miss and what's going on with their quarterback situation, moving into the season?
Austin Simmons, super talented, zero experience.
Correct.
I think I can read. I read that as we need somebody who can just come in here to just sort of bring a little bit of vet presence here. And if you're coming from D2 to being in Oxford, playing in the quarterback room for Lane Kiffin's offense at Ole Miss, there's worse places to be in America, And
also just that feels like a Lane Kiffin kind of thing. Could get the Division II stud, see if I can turn him into something here if I want. Another name that is recognizable that entered the portal, who will now be going to, I believe, his 19th school, Mike Wright.
Oh,
you may remember started at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
He was at Northwestern last year. He lost the starting gig there. He is back in the portal. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. He says he's looking for a starting gig. And another one that happened not today, but earlier in the week, and I thought I've heard you guys mention this name before, Jeremy Hecklinski out of Wake Forest.
Ryan Hecklinski, right?
I thought it was Jeremy.
I think it's Ryan.
We'll
double check. Get our research department on that.
Just because I thought there was some buzz about him last year too at Wake.
There was. Remember, he was starting as a true freshman, when he first got there and showed what he could do. That was one. What about Gio Lopez, Alabama's quarterback?
That's a good
I've
call.
seen him kind of crystal balled to North Carolina, I think is the last one I saw. I don't know if it's for sure yet, but I've been kind of waiting to see what North Carolina thought of Ryan Brown and others. Max Johnson obviously missed the spring because of the injury, but I still look at them as somebody who needs to be in the market for somebody that can shake things up and potentially, win the starting job. And he was pretty good last year for South Alabama.
Yeah, the combination of him and Fluff Bothwell, I thought was a very I was betting South Alabama a lot because of those two alone. I just felt like compared to the other Sun Belt rosters, that team was more talented on offense than most of the teams they were facing. I think Lopez is a good player. I don't know if he's I wouldn't call him the kind of guy who can get you to the playoffs, but I do think he's got the playmaker to him to where he can win you a few games on his own just by making stuff happen. Of course, we often see those guys can lose some games for you by doing the same things.
Right now, Zenitz says things are moving towards Gio Lopez being a commit for North Carolina. I would hope that North Carolina is able to lock that down, given John Talty's recent reporting, where throughout the industry, according to his story on CBSSports.com, there have been some low ball offers coming out of Chapel Hill at potential transfer portal targets. And Gio Lopez is like, if you wanted to low ball Nico to see what he would do, sure. But I would secure Gio Lopez, because I agree with you. He is, this was the scale I described to somebody yesterday. There's like Sun Belt great equals ACC good equals might be fighting for your job at the Super 2. You know, like it's Gio Lopez arrives at top 15, college football playoff contender. He might be spicy in fall camp, but he's not the certified starter, but he is good enough to go in there and arrive in the Atlantic Coast Conference, be successful against those defenses, and be a very good player for North Carolina at a position where Max Johnson still hasn't been fully cleared for any kind of full health after snapping his leg in the season opener last year. You mentioned Ryan Brown coming in from Purdue, who we have yet to see be anything more than sort of a change of pace, secondary pitch type guy. And then there is Bryce Baker, who North Carolina really, really, really likes, but you maybe don't want to have your true freshman starting the season. So Gio Lopez, I think, would be a good addition to that North Carolina room, which would then have 4 quarterbacks. So then, of course, we'd be looking to see if anybody ends up ducking out the other way too.
We'll say, if maybe it's just a funds issue, maybe they don't have the money they thought they would have available to spend in the portal. But if it's not, I would give Mike Lombardi some advice, because, if you're going to bring that NFL mindset, college isn't that different from the NFL, in which if you make a reasonable offer to a free agent, that's a great way to finish third in the bidding.
If you make a reasonable, if you make the sensible offer that the that the spreadsheet tells you should hold out, then